Discarded by 8 models, Millionaire CEO discovers incredible love with single mother delivery girl Jake Thompson stood under the shimmering lights of downtown Chicago, his perfectly tailored suit hugging his frame with precision. He was a millionaire CEO, surrounded by the glamour of the city and the laughter of his 8 stunning model companions. Yet, as the smiles and laughter danced around him, a heavy weight rested on his heart. The party was a spectacle, yet it felt like a prison of shallow connections, each laugh like a hollow echo in an expansive void. Beneath the surface, a deep sense of isolation clawed at him. Was this what life was meant to be? One late night, while rushing to deliver food to a local community center as part of a charity initiative he impulsively signed up for, everything changed. The streets thrummed with energy, the air tinged with possibility and urgency. When he saw her Mia. She was a single mother struggling to balance a pile of orders with her young son Lucas's needs. Her determination struck him like a lightning bolt. She moved with purpose, her tired smile revealing an inner strength that mesmerized him. "Hey, you alright?" Jake asked as he stepped closer, noticing the way she expertly maneuvered around the bustling crowd, her hands steady as they loaded boxes into her small car. "I'm fine, just busy," Mia replied, though her exhausted eyes told a different story. There was a fire in her spirit that ignited something deep inside Jake. Their late-night food runs turned into moments to share stories, laughter, and a fleeting sense of freedom. He was drawn into her world, finding solace in her authenticity while slowly peeling away the layers of his privileged life. Every shared moment forged an invisible bond. Every hushed conversation under the glow of streetlights felt like an untold promise. But with each connection came the stinging reality of their differences. His wealthy friends mocked him for dating a delivery girl, jokes dripping with privilege and a casual insensitivity that burned Jake's insides. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake navigated his feelings, Mia faced her own storm. An unexpected surge of medical bills for Lucas shattered her fragile hopes. Overwhelmed, she felt like she was suffocating under a weight no one could see. Jake felt helpless as his heart broke for her. Yet their bond only deepened, resilience shining through the cracks of their lives. Together, they explored the tender corners of love, laughter, and the unwavering strength that blossomed in community support. But then came a misunderstanding, words spoken in haste that echoed louder than any prior affection, forcing them both to confront their fears. Jake stood torn, caught between the allure of his lavish lifestyle and the undeniable connection he felt with Mia. Could love transcend everything: status, privilege, the daunting expectations of society? Tension hung in the air like a storm cloud, blocking out the light of hope and casting shadows deeper than either could ignore. Would he embrace Mia, risking everything he had? Or was he destined to retreat back into the polished emptiness of his old life? Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his decision pounding against his chest. Could he truly break free from the expectations of a life filled with luxury and shallow relationships? The laughter from his friends echoed around him, a constant reminder of what he was supposed to want. Yet all he could think about was Mia. Her determination, her smile, and the warmth she brought to his life haunted him in the best way possible. He turned his back on the party, stepping into the cool Chicago air. The streets were alive with the sounds of honking cars and laughter, but all he could hear was his heart racing as he made his way to Mia's delivery route. It no longer matters what people said. What mattered was the pull he felt towards her. He couldn't ignore it. As the streetlights flickered overhead, Jake spotted her on the corner, wrestling with a cart filled with meal deliveries. She'd been putting in long hours, and he could see the exhaustion etched on her face. Despite that, there was still a spark of determination in her eyes as she waved to a passing friend. Mia, Jake called, jogging toward her. She turned, surprise washing over her features, then blossoming into a smile that chased the shadows away. Jake, what are you doing here? Her voice was like a soft melody amid the chaos of the city. I couldn't stay in that party anymore. I had to see you, he admitted, his heart pounding at the honesty of his words. Mia's eyes searched his face, a mixture of joy and concern dancing across her expression. You really shouldn't be here. What if someone sees you? He took a step closer, closing the distance. I don't care what they think. You're what matters. An awkward silence hung between them, thick with unexpressed emotions. Mia's gaze dropped, and he could see the weight of worry that had settled into her shoulders. I wish it were that easy, she finally said, her voice almost a whisper. Things are complicated, Jake. I have Lucas to think about. I can't let you get pulled into my chaos. Maybe I want to be in your chaos. The words spilled out before he even thought about them. Maybe it's more real than the life I'm pretending to enjoy. She looked up, her eyes locking onto his. The fire in her spirit flared back to life. You mean that? Absolutely. You deserve someone who sees you for you, not your job or circumstances. I'm tired of pretending. His heart raced as he waited for her response. But before she could answer, a sudden alarm blared from her phone. It was a reminder about Lucas's doctor appointment, another detail in her life that was already packed with challenges. I have to go, she said, biting her lip and glancing at her phone. I need to get these deliveries done before I pick him up. Then let us do it together, Jake said, surprising even himself with his enthusiasm. I can help. Mia hesitated, uncertainty flashing across her face. Jake, it's not please, he interrupted gently. Let me be there for you. I want to help. Something shifted in her expression, a blend of hope and fear, and her resolve softened. Okay, but this is not a fairy tale, she said with a half-smile. Then let us make it our own reality, he replied, determination rising within him. Together, they set off down the city street, Jake pushing the cart alongside her. Laughter bubbled between them, weaving through the chaos of the surroundings. But beneath that laughter, the shadows of doubt lingered. Would his world accept this new life with Mia? As they laughed together, Jake wondered if their happiness could withstand the pressures from both their worlds. Suddenly, a familiar voice shouted from behind them, shattering the moment. Jake, what the hell are you doing? His heart sank. It was one of his friends from the party, eyes wide in disbelief. Jake turned slowly, anxiety piercing through the warmth of the moment. Would he stand up for Mia? Or would he retreat once again into the safe yet lonely abyss of the life he had known? The choice loomed larger than ever, and the path ahead was uncertain. Jake's heart raced as he faced the familiar face of his friend, Mark. The laughter and chatter from the party felt sharp and grating now, contrasting with the warmth he had just shared with Mia. Seriously, man? This is where you've been? Mark laughed, a sound that stung. There was disbelief and a hint of mockery in his tone, and Jake felt the weight of judgment creep in. Mia stood beside him, her eyes wide. Jake, maybe we should go, she murmured, her own discomfort growing. No, Jake said, finding strength amid the uncertainty. I'm not going anywhere. Not now. He turned to Mark, who was still staring, arms crossed over his designer shirt, with an expression that flickered between amusement and irritation. This is Mia. She's helping me see things differently. Mark smirked. See what? The back streets of Chicago? Come on, Jake, you've got a life to get back to. Why are you wasting your time here? Because I care about her, Jake shouted, the force of his own declaration surprising him. The surrounding noise faded, the city lights dimmed, and it felt like just the two of them in that moment, each searching the other's eyes. I care about what's real, more than parties and expectations. Mia's breath hitched next to him, uncertainty mixing with a flicker of hope. The grip of his hand on the cart tightened, anchoring him. Look, I get it. You want to play the hero and all, Mark scoffed. But this isn't a movie, man. You think dating a delivery girl is gonna make you happy? Jake felt a surge of indignation. What about happiness, Mark? You think it's all about status? What I see in Mia is more than any designer label could give me. She matters. A flicker of surprise crossed Mark's face, quickly replaced by forced laughter. Oh, come on. What do you know about what she has been through? You think you can just swoop in and fix everything? This whole thing is a joke. The laughter turned bitter, and for a moment, Jake felt raw annoyance prick at his skin. He glanced at Mia, whose expression had shifted to one of worry. It crushed him to see her doubt himself. Actually, Mark, Mia interjected, her voice lower but steady. I've lived through things you can't even begin to imagine. I'm not looking for a knight. I just need someone who sees me for who I am. Surprised silence fell. Jake met Mia's fierce gaze, pride swelling in his chest. Amidst the chaos, she stood strong just like he needed to be. Together, we're building something new, Jake said finally, lifting his chin. If you can't understand that, it's on you. But you can't just stand there and judge us. Mark's eyes narrowed. You're going to regret this, man. Trust me. This will end in disaster. Maybe it will, Jake admitted, the certainty in his voice surprising even himself. But it would be a disaster worth taking. I'd rather take that risk than go back to pretending. With that, he turned back to Mia, the city air buzzing between them. You ready? Mia looked at him, her expression a blend of surprise and something warmer. Really? You mean it? Absolutely, he replied, feeling a rush of affection. With uncertain steps, they began to move forward, leaving Mark behind. The laughter faded, replaced by the hum of city life, but Jake felt a lightness he hadn't expected. He was stepping into the unknown with Mia, and that spark of joy and fear danced in the air around them. Yet, with every step they took, doubt lingered a question at the forefront of his mind. Could this newfound connection withstand the weight of their pasts? As they rounded the corner, the night sky opened above them, vast and full of stars. I just don't want you to get hurt, Jake, Mia murmured, looking up. Neither do I, he admitted softly, squeezing her hand. But together I think we can find a way. Just then, another familiar figure approached. It was Lucas, Mia's son, face lit by the glow of a streetlight. Jake's heart pounded as he saw the boy, knowing this meeting could change everything. What would Lucas think of him stepping into their lives? Mom! Lucas shouted, a mix of excitement and curiosity in his eyes. Jake's breath hitched. Was he ready to embrace not just Mia, but the life that came with her? Just then, he took a deep breath, unsure if he was approaching a new beginning or a tidal wave of uncertainty. But as he looked over at Mia, full of hope and determination, he felt a new strength build within him. Hey buddy, Jake called out, his voice steadying. I can do this. And with that thought, the door to Jake's future opened wider, but a looming question hung in the air. Would this leap of faith lead him to the love he sought, or unlock a reality he wasn't prepared for? Lucas skidded to a stop in front of them, his sneakers screeching against the pavement. The boy's face lit up with an eager grin, an expression so pure that it made Jake's heart swell and drop at the same time. Who is this? Lucas tilted his head, eyes darting between Mia and Jake. This is Jake, Mia said, her voice steady. He is a friend. Just a friend. But there was a softness to her words, a tone that said more than she meant. Jake knelt down, matching Lucas's height, his heart racing. Hey Lucas, it's nice to meet you. Your mom has told me a lot about you. He smiled, trying to project warmth and sincerity, to show he was someone worth knowing. Really? Lucas replied, his eyebrows raised in surprise. What did she say? Only good things, I promise, Jake said, keeping eye contact with the boy. He could see the curiosity and a hint of skepticism lurking in Lucas's gaze, as if he were measuring him up. Like how you're a great soccer player. Are you still playing? Yeah. Lucas beamed. I'm on the team at school. We're gonna win our next game for sure. That is awesome. Jake felt a rush of admiration for the kid. He wanted to connect, to find common ground. I used to play a little when I was your age too. Maybe I can come to a game sometime? Lucas's eyes widened, a spark of excitement igniting. You want to come watch me play? That would be so cool. Before Jake could respond, Mia stepped closer, a protectiveness emanating from her. "Lucas, why don't we talk to Jake later? Let us finish our walk home. It's getting late." Jake straightened, feeling the weight of her worry. She was right. They still had things to navigate. The last thing he wanted was for Lucas to feel overwhelmed. "Sure, we can catch up later," Jake said, giving a reassuring nod to Lucas. He wasn't backing down. He was starting to feel like a part of their little world, but it would take time. "I'll see you at practice," Lucas shouted over his shoulder as they began to walk away. Jake chuckled, feeling the tension lift slightly. Mia turned to him, her expression a mix of gratitude and concern. "I'm sorry, it's just, I want to protect him from anything." "I get it," Jake interrupted gently. "This is new for all of us. But I want to show you both that I'm here, willing to make this work." Mia paused, her gaze penetrating. "It's not just about us, you know. Lucas has had a tough time trusting new people." Jake nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in. "And I respect that. I'll take it slow. I'm not here to rush anything or be a hero." They walked in silence for a moment, the night enveloping them in a comfortable cocoon. Jake stole glances at Mia, her features illuminated by the streetlights. "What if Mark was right?" she suddenly asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if this leads to something bad? I don't want to mess up again." Jake stopped in his tracks, feeling a pang in his chest. "What happened in your past? It doesn't define your future. We can find a way through this. Together." Mia searched his face for assurance, and for a moment, they stood just outside the storm of uncertainty that hovered around them. "Together," she echoed, the word hanging between them like a fragile promise. As they continued walking, the city buzzed around them. Jake felt the energy shifting, a strange mix of hope and apprehension whirling inside him. What if this really could work out? But the pain of Mia's past, and the reality of Lucas's guarded heart, loomed ahead like shadows. They turned down a quiet street, the world quieting down as they approached her apartment building. Jake's heart knew what he wanted, but the way forward felt jagged and uncertain. As they approached the entrance, Jake could sense a growing weight in the air, the way uncertainty clung to new beginnings. "Mia," he started, but hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the storm brewing inside him. Then Lucas burst into view again, racing past them, pulling Mia's attention. "Mom, can we get ice cream?" Even as the child interjected, Jake could see Mia's relief mixed with worry in her eyes. "Maybe just one scoop," she said, affectionate and firm, and Jake couldn't help but smile. Standing there, witnessing this tender moment, Jake realized that this wasn't just about stepping up. It was about becoming part of something he never knew he wanted. But as the three of them stepped toward the ice cream shop, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that with every softness, there could still be a storm right around the corner. Could love really flourish among such uncertainty? Or would the past catch up with them, threatening the fragile blooms of their budding relationship? The ice cream shop was alive with laughter and the sounds of family chatter. The bright neon sign above the door flickered, casting a warm glow that contrasted with the chill of the evening air. Lucas sprinted ahead, his excitement bubbling over as he caught sight of the colorful flavors displayed behind the glass. "Mom, look at all the choices," Lucas exclaimed, bouncing on his heels, his hands pressed against the cool glass. The joy in his voice made Jake's heart swell. He felt like he was witnessing not just a mother and son, but a little family portrait unfolding before his eyes. Mia turned to Jake, a wistful smile on her face. "He loves ice cream almost as much as he loves soccer," she said softly. "This is little reward after a long day." "I can see why," Jake replied, feeling the warmth between them deepen. "What's your favorite flavor, Lucas?" "Chocolate chip cookie dough," he shouted without hesitation, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. He turned to display his choice like it was the best treasure in the world. "I guess we're getting 2 scoops, then," Mia chuckled, ruffling Lucas's hair before stepping inside after him. Jake followed close behind, but a part of him remained outside for just a moment longer. He marveled at the scene before him, a mother enjoying these simple moments with her son. It was something he knew was precious yet taken for granted by so many. Once inside, the sweet smell of waffle cones enveloped him. Mia was already scanning the menu, and Jake joined her. "Which one do you think I should get?" he asked, leaning playfully toward her as Lucas hopped from one foot to the other. "Definitely go for the mint chocolate chip," she said, giving him an encouraging smile. "It's our favorite, trust me on this." "All right, mint chocolate chip it is." As they placed their order, the friendly ice cream shop owner chatted with Lucas, their laughter intertwining with the rhythm of the busy shop. Jake watched as Lucas beamed proudly while talking about his soccer practices and the upcoming game, seemingly unfazed by any worries he might have had moments earlier. Jake felt his chest tighten with emotion. This little moment, a shared experience, laughter over ice cream, and the promise of support felt like a milestone. But as they sat together at a small table, the atmosphere shifted slightly. Lucas licked his cone with fervor, but Mia's smile dropped for a brief moment as she looked toward the door, lost in thought. Jake could see her apprehension resurfacing like a tide pulling back into the ocean. "Mia?" he said gently, drawing her attention back to him. "Are you okay?" She forced a smile, but it trembled slightly. It's just she hesitated, picking at the paper wrapper of her own cone. "I'm afraid of what might happen if Lucas gets too attached too quickly. I don't want him to get hurt again." Jake reached out, placing his hand over hers. "He's not the only one at risk here. I know what it means to step into something new, but we can figure it out together. Each little step counts." Mia looked up, her eyes meeting his with a mix of hope and fear. "How do we even begin to navigate this? What if it all falls apart?" "That's the risk," Jake said, his voice steady. "But it's also the chance for something beautiful. I think it's worth it, don't you?" For a moment, silence settled at their table like a gentle blanket. Mia's brow furrowed with thought, and Jake hoped he had planted a seed of reassurance. Inside, Lucas was lost in a world of chocolate chip cookie dough, but Mia's eyes flitted back to the door for the briefest of moments. What lay beyond it? Would the world outside bring more uncertainty? Jake could sense her worry as the thrill of their shared moment hung in the air, shimmering with potential. The sweet taste of ice cream mingled with that underlying tension, and with each heartbeat, he felt the stirring of something deeper. "Mia," he said softly, "maybe we just need to embrace whatever comes next." But as he spoke, he noticed a shadow cast by the door's threshold. The moment of peace felt fragile, and the faint sound of laughter from outside faded into a heavier silence. He turned to see who had entered, heart racing with the sudden tension that snapped between them like the crack of a twig. The door swung open wider, and someone familiar stepped inside. Jake's heart stalled as he recognized the figure stepping into the shop. It was none other than Allison, his former college classmate. They had shared good times together, but after their abrupt breakup years ago, she felt like a ghost from a past he had tried to forget. She looked the same beautiful, confident, but the tightness in her jaw hinted at an undercurrent of something more. There was an instant shift in the air. Mia noticed the change in Jake's expression, her brow knitting in confusion. Lucas, oblivious to the tension, remained fixated on his dripping ice cream. "Hey, Jake," Allison called, her voice bright and buoyant, as if they were still the carefree students who used to roam campus together. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Allison," Jake managed, forcing a smile while his mind raced. He could practically hear Mia's thoughts. Who is she? Why does Jake look so tense? Allison sauntered over, a dazzling smile plastered on her face, but Jake felt the weight of her presence more than the warmth of it. He didn't know how to navigate this. She was a part of a life he had left behind, a life that felt like a distant flash of blue skies overshadowed by darker clouds now. "Lucas, wow, look at you with the ice cream," Allison beamed, crouching down to meet the boy's sparkling eyes. "What's your favorite flavor?" Her charm enveloped Lucas, and he proudly declared, "Chocolate chip cookie dough. That's a solid choice." She gave him a playful nudge. I used to love that one too. Maybe we can get some together sometime." Jake felt a prickle of unease. Allison's easy interaction with Lucas, the way she crouched and laughed, set off a warning bell in his mind. Mia's grip tightened on her cone as she assessed the situation with keen eyes, readjusting her position slightly as if weighing her options. "Mia," Jake began, but the words caught in his throat. Should he introduce them? This was unfamiliar territory. His heart sank as he glanced from Allison to Mia, aware of the silent expectations weighing on both women. "Who's your friend, Jake?" Allison asked, her smile genuine, but he sensed a hint of calculation behind those bright eyes. "This is Mia, Lucas's mom," Jake replied cautiously, careful to maintain neutrality in his tone. He trailed off awkwardly, fingers twitching nervously. "Hi," Mia said, voice steady but laced with a tinge of anxiety. She extended her hand, and Jake admired her bravery despite his own growing discomfort. Allison shook Mia's hand softly, but there was a flicker of competition dancing in her eyes. "Nice to meet you. Lucas is such a cutie. He's got that soccer star look. Doesn't he?" "Thanks," Mia replied, forcing a smile. "He loves playing. Keeps him active." Jake's chest tightened, wishing he could teleport them away from this moment. It was supposed to be a simple evening of ice cream, but embarrassment hung in the air, suffocating like humidity on a summer day. "So, how do you all know each other?" Allison's tone was light, but it felt like she was probing, seeking out any cracks that might exist. "Just got together for ice cream," Jake answered lamely, the tension palpable. Lucas continued to relish his cone, blissfully unaware of the atmosphere churning around him. Mia glanced at Jake, her expression unreadable. He could tell the introductions weren't going the way he had envisioned. The last thing he wanted was for Lucas to sense the awkwardness. "Maybe we should all sit together?" Allison suggested, her eyes bright with mischief as if she had just uncovered a new challenge. Jake shared a worried look with Mia, glimpsing her uncertainty. The last thing they needed was for the boundaries to blur in all the chaos. But before he could respond, Allison turned to Lucas, eager to win him over. "Hey, buddy, if you're a soccer star, you must have some awesome moves. Show us what you've got." Lucas's eyes lit up, pride swelling in his chest, and Jake felt a pang of foreboding. Would this moment mark a fresh beginning or the unraveling of what they had started to build? And as Jake stared at Allison, uncertainty pierced through him. What had he invited into their lives? Just as he was about to make a decision, he felt a tug at his heart again. The stakes were rising, and soon, everything he cautiously nurtured could either blossom or shatter. A shadow crossed the door again, not from absence, but of something approaching from behind. Jake's breath hitched. It seemed the night held more surprises than he ever expected. What would the next moment unravel? Jake's heart raced as he felt the doorway shift again. He turned his head, expecting the familiar faces of friends or a late customer. Instead, it was an older man, dressed in a sleek jacket that contrasted sharply with the casual atmosphere of the ice cream shop. He had salt and pepper hair, a stern expression, and an air of authority that made Jake's pulse quicken further. "Allison," the man called, his voice commanding but kind. "There you are. I've been looking all over for you." Jake's gaze flicked back to Allison, whose features shifted slightly at the sound of the man's voice. The charm that had danced on her face faded into something harder, more guarded. "Hey, Dad," she replied, her tone far more subdued. She stood up, brushing off her knees as she planted her feet firmly, creating a barrier between Jake, Lucas, and this new presence. Jake felt tangled in a web of confusion and unease. Who was this man? Lucas had watched excitedly, swinging his tiny legs as he absorbed the spectacle. "Dad, it's nice to meet you," Jake offered, extending his hand despite the swirling tension. The older man took it without hesitation. "Ryan," he said tersely before letting go. "Jake," he replied, glancing at Allison for an explanation, but she avoided his gaze, looking instead at the ice cream shop's display case. "This is quite the surprise," Ryan continued, looking between Lucas and Mia. "Seems you've made some new friends, Allison." His voice was smooth, but Jake could sense the underlying scrutiny. It made the hairs on his arms stand up. "Just a little ice cream outing," Allison replied. Her tone light, but her expression betrayed her distress. Lucas has a knack for picking the best flavors. That he does, Ryan nodded, though there was no warmth in his eyes. Instead, they flicked between Jake and Mia like a hawk sizing up its prey. Jake cleared his throat, nervously glancing at Mia, who was fidgeting with her now half-eaten cone. He couldn't help but feel that this was not how their outing was supposed to go. The air thickened with expectations, and he sensed that their light-hearted evening had been hijacked. Maybe it's time to wrap this up, Allison, Ryan suggested, his voice firm. We have our dinner plans to consider. A flicker of something frustration, perhaps, passed across Allison's face. Can't I stay a little longer? Lucas has been showing me his soccer moves, Dad. I don't think tonight is the time for that, Ryan said firmly. Jake felt his heart drop. He didn't want to create a scene or cause Allison more discomfort. But his instincts were screaming for him to say something, to stand up for their small moment together. Mia and I were just getting to know Lucas better, he said, trying to keep his voice even. You know, it's important for kids to enjoy these little outings. I mean, it's ice cream. For a moment, there was silence, a heartbeat of tension. Lucas stared between the adults, sensing something he didn't fully understand. Allison's fingers were tapping against her thigh, a fidget that betrayed her inner turmoil. Let me just, Allison, Ryan interrupted sharply. Mia caught Jake's eye, her expression a mixture of sympathy and concern. Maybe it was wrong to push this, but Jake felt a fierce protectiveness rise in him. He needed to give Allison space, support her against this intruder. I think we're fine here, he insisted gently, trying to bring lightness back into the moment, though it felt like the air had turned heavy. Ryan's eyes darkened, his focus honing in on Jake. I think you'll want to listen to me, son. The tension grew unbearable. Would Jake stand his ground, or would he concede to the demands of the past? The path ahead felt anything but clear, and the noise of Lucas's cone crunching suddenly felt too loud. Maybe he was jumping into the deep end, especially after all that had happened, but for the first time in a long time he wanted to protect something precious. And just as he opened his mouth to decide, he heard a commotion from outside, the screech of tires, the sound of yelling. What now? The pace of their tangled lives was picking up. Speed, and Jake felt the twist of uncertainty pulling them all tighter. The night was about to take another unexpected turn. The sudden chaos outside drew everyone's focus. The sound of screeching tires pierced the heavy air of the ice cream shop. It was a cacophony that shattered the mounting tension. Jake's heart pounded as he turned his head toward the doorway, the clatter of voices blending into an unsettling harmony. What was that? Lucas's eyes widened, worries creeping into his innocent expression. Allison's guard seemed to shift. Stay here, she instructed, her voice sharp, but then softened when she turned to Lucas. Don't move, okay? Ryan's gaze was sharp, scanning the scene outside like a hawk looking for prey. Let me check, he said, and before anybody could argue, he stepped outside, leaving an oppressive silence in his wake. Should we go? Mia asked, glancing at Jake, her usually bright demeanor dimmed in the face of uncertainty. I think so, Jake said, rising. He couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Allison took a breath, a flicker of determination crossing her face. She stepped after her father, but paused, looking back at Jake. Please just wait here with Lucas. That fierce protectiveness surged in him again. He couldn't let her go outside alone, not when so much was already at stake. I'm coming with you, he insisted, matching her stride as they approached the door together, Lucas bouncing nervously behind them. The scene outside was disheveled. A small crowd had gathered, their anxious murmurs rising like a wave crashing against the shore. Jake's eyes widened as he took in the sight a car, slightly dinged, had veered off balance, up onto the curb. Shattered glass glinted on the asphalt, and a man was crouched down, holding his side, breaths coming out in quick, shallow gasps. Call 911, someone shouted. Before he knew it, instinct took over. Jake squeezed past the crowd, Allison right beside him. Let me help, he called out, ignoring the weight of Ryan's disapproval, which he could feel like a shadow. Allison was at Jake's side, her face a mask of concern. "Jake, be careful. He needs us," he said, eyes fixed on the injured man. Jake kneeling down next to him, trying to assess the situation, his heart racing. "Hey, can you hear me?" The man looked up, pain etched across his features, but there was a flicker of relief in his eyes. "Stay still. Help is coming," Jake said, feeling the tension within himself ease slightly as he felt Allison's hand on his shoulder. "Is he going to be okay?" Lucas's small voice fractured through the chaos. "We're going to help him, buddy," Jake reassured, not even sure if he believed it himself. He glanced at Allison, whose eyes were filled with an unsettling mix of fear and determination. In and among the sirens wailing in the distance, Jake felt a surge of connection with her. He was struck by how they were all wrapped in this moment together, even as everything else felt unstable. Allison's breathing quickened. "We need to apply pressure," she said, her voice firm. It sparked something in him, the fierce independence that had drawn him to her in the first place. As the paramedics arrived, Jake's chest tightened seeing Allison step forward, taking charge in a way he had rarely seen. It was a glimpse of the person behind the guarded exterior, and he knew right then that she was fighting against something much bigger than a car accident. There was a battle brewing between her past and present that rattled in ways he couldn't fully grasp. And then, just as Jake was about to voice his thoughts, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd. Ryan. His face twisted with confusion and something darker, eyes scanning Allison as if she was the only threat. "Allison, get back here," he barked. Jake felt a fire ignite. The tension between family, the chaos outside, and the water rising in Allison's eyes, it all felt too much. A fight was brewing, both inside and outside, and he knew a moment of choice was upon them. Would he stand up against Ryan for Allison? Was he prepared for the fallout? Allison's eyes locked onto his, searching, pleading, and it hit Jake like a freight train. This was about more than ice cream. It was about trust, and choices, about burying fears, and he had to decide. The moment hung heavy in the air. What would happen next would change everything. The tension cracked in the air like a thunderclap. Jake's heart raced. Ryan's voice, a mixture of authority and desperation, sliced through the chaos, and the warmth he felt from being close to Allison suddenly chilled. "Allison, I mean it," Ryan shouted, crossing the space between them like a storm cloud. "Get away from him." Jake wanted to step forward, to tell Ryan to back off, but he felt the weight of uncertainty. This wasn't just about the injured man anymore. It was about Allison, who stood strong, yet frightened. She was not just Ryan's daughter. She was a person, battling her inner demons, and he was drawn in. "Just let me help." Allison's voice was firm, but there was a quiver beneath. Jake realized he wasn't just watching a family dispute unfold. He was witnessing the static between protection and freedom. Lucas shuffled closer to Jake, clutching his arm, eyes wide. "Is everything okay?" he whispered. "Not sure yet," Jake replied, a knot forming in his gut. Ryan pushed closer to Allison, towering like a shadow over her resolve. "You don't know what you're doing. Get back now." Jake clenched his jaw. He could feel Allison's struggle, her desire to prove herself, but the looming presence of Ryan was suffocating. "Allison, you've got this," he said softly, his voice almost lost in the din of the crowd. "Just keep doing what you're doing." Her gaze darted between him and her father, an inner hurricane swirling in her eyes. In this moment, he saw her not just a girl filled with angst, but a fierce fighter eager to reclaim her space. Then, as if sensing the collective breath of the crowd hanging on this moment, Allison stood taller. "Ryan," she began, her voice steady now, "I can help him. I know what to do. You need to trust me." Jake felt a rush of admiration. She was brave, taking a stand not just for the man on the ground, but for herself. The shadows that had clouded her heart were beginning to lift. What had seemed like a chaotic scene turned into a battleground of wills. Ryan faltered, the tension in his body wavering. He looked torn, a warrior realizing he was on a battlefield of his own making. "You don't need to," he started, but Allison cut him off. "Yes, I do. I've always needed to," she shot back, The fire in her eyes ignited something deep within Jake, the kind of core strength he had only glimpsed before. As she bent back down to help the injured man, Jake felt compelled to step forward. "We're here for her," he stated firmly, addressing Ryan, eyes unyielding. "Let her do this. Let her show what she can do." Ryan's face contorted, surprise and anger clashing. "What do you know about our family? How dare you?" Jake took a breath, steadying himself against the whirlwind of emotions. "I know she is capable. I see it in her. And maybe you should too." A tense silence followed, filled only by the sound of sirens drawing closer. The crowd shifted, whispers buzzing like a beehive. All eyes fixated on the three of them. Then, surprisingly, Ryan's shoulders sagged. "This isn't about you," he muttered, glancing at Allison, who was concentrating on helping the injured man. It's okay. Dad," Allison interjected softly, her voice a balm to the intense atmosphere. "Let it go, please." With a thud, Jake's heart beat faster. The relationship was fragile, each moment critical. His gaze returned to Allison, her focus steady, hands working with precision. There was strength here that he admired, and he knew they were standing on the edge of something vital. As the paramedics took over, Jake sensed the world shifting around them. Ryan took a step back, face softening as he watched his daughter. She was carving out her own path, not just in the chaotic scene outside but in her life. And then, just as things began to settle, Allison met Jake's eyes again, filled with something swirling between fear and hope. "What if the past doesn't let go?" she whispered, just as the sirens enveloped them in sound. Jake felt the weight of those words. "Then we'll find a way together," he assured her, but deep down, he sensed they were only just beginning to uncover the layers waiting to be unearthed. What would break first, old chains or new bonds? The question hung in the air like the final note of a song waiting to be played. Would they have the strength to face what came next? The chaos outside faded, slowly replaced by a fragile calm as the paramedics tended to the injured man on the ground. Jake could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, as if the air were thick with untold possibilities. He watched Allison step back, her hands trembling slightly. Her father, Ryan, seemed to have transitioned from the storm of authority to a serene observer, witnessing the transformation of his daughter with a hint of admiration battling the remnants of skepticism. "Are you okay?" Jake asked softly, inching closer to Allison, whose eyes now sparkled with unshed tears. "Yeah," she breathed, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through her tough exterior. "I just didn't expect tonight to go this way." "No one ever does," he replied, a small smile creeping onto his face. Meanwhile, Mia and Lucas stood at a distance, doing their best to absorb the whirlwind around them. Jake felt a rush of warmth when he turned to glance at them. Lucas's eyes sparkled with a mixture of awe and concern as he watched the grown-ups scramble to help. "What is happening, Jake? Is that man going to be okay?" Lucas asked, gripping onto Mia's arm. She gave him a reassuring squeeze, but Jake knew there was more at play here. "I believe he will be," Jake answered confidently, feeling the weight of Lucas's gaze. "It's amazing how people come together. Isn't it?" Lucas nodded, looking more inspired than frightened. "Yeah. Just like on the soccer field when we all work together." "Exactly," Jake replied, straightening with a sense of pride. "We can do a lot when we share our strengths. Just like your mom and me." Mia looked at him, her expression shifting as hope crept into her heart, lifting the burden she had carried for so long. Jake reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining as a promise of support and solidarity coursed between them. "Let us go see how we can help," Jake suggested gently, his heart racing at the thought of bringing this little family closer together, of proving to Mia that he was here, committed despite the obstacles. They moved toward the paramedics, where Allison stood, feet planted, now a central part of a healing circle. She had shed the fear of her father's shadow and stepped into her own power, taking charge of the scene with confidence. "Mia, I think they could use more hands," Allison called out, her voice ringing with newfound certainty. They joined the group, and as night slipped into quiet, Jake felt the warmth of connection soothing the tension that had hung in the air just minutes before. He exchanged glances with Allison, watching as she rallied support from the bystanders, creating a community where one hadn't existed. Hours later, after the chaos had subsided, Jake, Mia, and Lucas stood outside the now-quiet ice cream shop, watching the stars twinkle overhead. Lucas had fallen asleep in Mia's arms, a vision of innocence absorbed in the comfort of love. Jake's heart swelled at the sight. There was so much beauty in their little family. Allison lingered nearby, the previous strains of confrontation washed away by the heart of the night. Jake, I'm grateful for everything. Tonight pushed me to see myself differently. Maybe I've been running from my past instead of confronting it. Jake smiled. We all have our battles, Allison, but it's facing them that makes us stronger. You've got an incredible spirit. As they embraced the quiet, an unspoken bond began to blossom between the three of them. They were all navigating the spaces of their lives together. It felt like family, safe, warm, and filled with promise. Are you ready for a new beginning, Mia? Jake asked, turning to her, his heart beating steadily, hope coursing through him. Together, maybe we can reach for it, she replied softly, the weariness in her eyes gradually replaced with something brighter. With that, he took her hand, feeling the spark of connection that had grown between them. Lucas stirred awake, peering up at them, his sleepy eyes filled with trust and love. Are we going to get more ice cream tomorrow? He mumbled, his cheeks rosy. Definitely, Jake exclaimed, knowing that each moment held the promise of joy, laughter, and shared living. Under the starlit sky, with the gentle lull of the Chicago breeze surrounding them, they stepped forward into their new reality. A family woven not just from blood but from love, courage, and the will to choose each other time and again. With one last glance at the city skyline where dreams soared high and realities merged, Jake knew a truth. Love, genuine love, rises from unexpected places and can weather any storm. They were ready to face whatever came next, hand in hand, heart to heart. Now is your chance. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment down below your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel. Let us keep this journey alive together.